What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again with the Awesemo channel, talking some college basketball DFS. Ahead of Sunday, March the 13th. It is Selection Sunday. We have a few conference championships to wrap up before we get there, and we'll dig into everything DFS related. But before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. We're also brought to you today by Monkey Knife Fight, and they have a great deal for those of you new to the platform. What you're going to do is enter the promo code PLUS, P-L-U-S, so they know we sent you, and that's going to give you 2 free months of Awesemo plus a number of match deposit bonus. So make sure to check out Monkey Knife Fight. And digging into today's slate, we have 4 games, a couple conference championships, and we're going to kick things off with Davidson taking on Richmond. Really interesting spot here. To start, Davidson is a 3.5-point favorite. They've taken money. The total is 136.5, which is also taking money. Interesting considering both these teams play pretty slow, and particularly Davidson. But both these teams are very efficient on offense. Davidson's the top 10 offense in the country in terms of efficiency, and Richmond is number 77. So 2 pretty solid teams here. For DFS purposes, Davidson's priced down a little bit. They have 3 studs that we want to look at. Basically, they're going to function through Luka Brajkovic, Hyung Lee, and Foster Lawyer. And recently, Brajkovic has the most usage, minutes, and consistent rates across the team. Now, it's pretty close between him and Hyung Lee. When you look at recent play, Hyung Lee actually holds an edge, an 18% shot rate for him, 22% rebound rate. But Brajkovic on the year has an 18% shot rate, 21% rebound rate, as well as a 17% assist rate. So just a slightly better floor there. Both of them are going to play 30 to 35 minutes, especially in a competitive game here. Davidson's won each of their last 2 games by double digits, so we didn't see full minutes. Foster Lawyer has a good shot rate. The Michigan State transfer, 18% last 3, but his minutes are a little more volatile. He's only played 23 in each of the last games. When they're competitive, we do have upside to see 30 plus, but just a little less consistent. I'd rather play Lee than Lawyer at the same price. For those of you looking at cheaper options, Michael Jones has played at least 33 minutes in 3 straight games. He's more of a wind sprinter type player, if you will, a hollow usage minute stuffer, but doesn't really do a lot when he's on the floor. He's somebody maybe you could get to. I think I would rather go a little bit cheaper. There's players like Grant Hoffman who've played 20 minutes in 3 straight games. And now Grant Hoffman's not going to be a stat stuffer either, but he's 3,600 compared to, 4,800 for Menenga or 5,500 for Jones. And he's also a decent pivot off a cheap player we'll talk about later for Houston. The only issue is with roster construction. This is an early tip. So you got to play Grant Hoffman or you got to hold your breath and hope that a Fabian White is out for your value play later, but we'll get to that. For Richmond, Jacob Gilyard plays every minute, literally every minute. Now, there's players that have better usage than him, but the minute consistency is valuable. He's 8,500, 25% shot rate, 35% assist rate. He's somebody you can get to, and I think he'll be a little contrarian today. Tyler Burton's going to play somewhere between 35 and 40 minutes. He's more of your pure rebounder, but the shot rate is decent. So he's a guy that you can use for some double-double equity. Grant Golden, he functions in a similar role, just less minutes. That's reflected in price. I think all 3 of these studs are valuable here. And Andre Gustafson should be popular as a value play at 4,600. He's played at least 29 minutes in 3 straight games. His rates are really low, and his usage rate is actually 8.5%. So Gustafson, he's somebody that I think we can get leverage on maybe by fading and playing somewhere else that has a higher ceiling in this price range. But I'm expecting Gustafson to be popular. For cash, he plays enough minutes to consider here. Going to game 2. The second early tip is Texas A&M taking on Tennessee. Upset after upset for Texas A&M, beginning with Florida, culminating in the Arkansas upset yesterday. Crazy run for them. They're still 6.5-point dogs against Tennessee. They have taken some money, so I wouldn't be surprised to see this tick to 6, but a 130.5 total is not too desirable. Tennessee's kind of in the same range as Davidson in terms of team totals. Texas A&M's on the lower end, and their rotation's not very consistent. Quentin Jackson's going to play around 30 minutes, but even in the second most recent game, he played just 22, some of that due to fouls. I'd rather play Henry Coleman at the same price. He just has better rates across the board and more double-double equity with that 23% rebound rate. So Coleman would be the guy I'm paying up for. Boots Radford, Tyrese Radford's usable as well. For a guard, he has a really high rebound rate, so there is a little bit of double-double equity with Radford if he catches fire shooting. Outside of that, there's a couple value plays. A lot of people ended up on Wade Taylor yesterday, myself included, because of the high shot rate last 3, but just 21 minutes, wasn't able to get it done there. He's somebody I think you could go back to, but he's a little expensive now at 4,800. Just kind of a different story than yesterday. You have Manny Obeski at 3,100, who I think is kind of viable. 17 minutes last two, but again, he's just a near min price guy who would have to hit a couple shots to pay off. On the Tennessee side, this is an interesting spot to take a look at some of the studs. Kennedy Chandler projects well. After spraining his ankle in their second most recent game, he just comes back and plays 34 minutes right away. So I think if this game is competitive, which 6.5 point spread suggests it will be, Kennedy Chandler is going to be an excellent play. He just has better rates overall than Vescovi when he's fully healthy. So 300 more, I'm going to play Chandler over Vescovi. Josiah Jordan-James ran kind of bad in their last game. He fouls at times, but he'll play 30 minutes. He has the best rates across the board when you include rebounds. So Josiah Jordan-James has more double-double equity than anyone on this team. I think he's viable. Really good three-point shooter too. Good assist rate. John Fulkerson could be popular as a pivot off of, the Taylors and the Gustafsons in this range, but minutes are not consistent with Fulkerson. I think there's better places to go. Brandon Huntley-Hatfield is an option at 3,600 who could be a pivot off Roberts in the Houston game. And, the other players in that 3K to 4K range. The rates are actually pretty good for Huntley-Hatfield. He just needs minutes, which have not been consistent, 22, 22, and 18 last three. Going to our later tips, we have the game of choice here for a lot of people when it's due to injury, but we'll talk about that. Memphis taking on Houston for the AAC championship. These teams played recently. Memphis got the upset win, but Houston's still a 3.5 point favorite. 133 total overall is middling in the context of this slate. Two pretty good defensive teams. Houston's third in the country, and Memphis is 35th. On the Memphis side, Jalen Duran went out with an injury last game. It's a wrist. He's questionable here, but he came back, so we're expecting him to play. Outside chance he gets held out just as a precaution, but just monitor that. We've kind of seen Memphis narrow their rotation. So not only Duran is injured, but Amani Bates hasn't played in multiple games, and we're not expecting to see him soon. So that's kind of narrowed minutes, and it's coming particularly at the guard position. Alex Lomax played 39 minutes in their last game. He's not the most used player, mostly a peripheral guy with a 26.5% assist rate, but that's just so many minutes at that price. Very consistent option. I think you can play Lomax. Landers Nolly has a 20.5% shot rate last three, 15.5% rebound rate, 18.5% assist rate. 6,100. He's somebody that could fill the void for Duran if he's out. He's a decent play at his price. And then we have Lester Quijones, 35, 28, and 33 minutes in 3 straight games. I'd rather just pay up for Nolly or pay down for Lomax, but he's certainly somebody you could look at as well. Earl Timberlake, min price, just want to mention him, played 18 minutes last game. Probably nothing to really worry about there. Houston, pretty good implied team total in the context of this slate, which is 4 games, mostly low totals. And we have a huge injury to monitor. It's Fabian White, who's the most expensive player on Houston, one of the lone options in their front court. He only played 3 minutes last game due to back tightness, and that thrust Juwan Roberts into a much elevated role, 34 minutes for him, which Juwan Roberts at this price, 3,700, he is the best play on the slate if Fabian White misses. He had 13 rebounds, tons of double-double equity. Houston's so thin with injuries to Marcus Sasser and Tremont Mark already that they're going to play these guys 30 minutes if it comes down to it. So Juwan Roberts immediately becomes the best play on the slate if Fabian White misses. Now, if Fabian White is active, I think Roberts is still somewhat viable. He's playing around 15 to 20 minutes, even with a healthy Fabian White. So I think you could stand on your call here if White plays in the game. Outside of that, Kyler Edwards projects really well, just so involved everywhere. Above 18% rate, shot rate, rebound rate, assist rate. Taze Moore is very close to that. He's mainly a shooter and an assister, but Taze, he's somebody that has dealt with foul trouble, so I think there's kind of an untapped ceiling with him. And then Jamal Shedd's going to be their primary ball handler, so high assist rate for him, upwards of 40%. All three viable here. Going to the last game, we have Purdue taking on Iowa. In the latest tip, it is going to be Purdue favored by 2.5 points, a 148 total. So this is the game we clearly want to isolate. 2 top 5 teams in offensive efficiency, 2 teams outside the top 145 in defensive efficiency, 2 elite rebounding teams. Purdue opened as a dog, and they've taken a ton of money. They're already favored by 2.5 with money coming in. With Purdue, first thing to mention, Edey and Trevion Williams will not play together. They will each play 20 minutes or thereabouts, totaling 40, depending on if one gets in foul trouble. You might see more or less, give or take. They're hard to play at their prices. Now, Jaden Ivey, 7,800. He's played 36 and 37 minutes in back-to-back games. When games are tight, Ivey is going to be the guy they lean on. He has the best rates across the board. 23% shot rate, 16.5% rebound rate, 20.5% assist rate. Ivy firmly in play. From there, Stefanovic has actually seen his role decrease. He's played less than 25 minutes in 2 straight, and he already isn't a stat stuffer. So Stefanovic is volatile. I wouldn't try to get to him. I'd rather go down and play Eric Hunter, who's seen 31 minutes or more in 3 straight. Actually has a 15% shot rate and 20.5% assist rate. So he's a good play, 4,600 strong rates for his price. Mason Gillis is also involved. He's played over 30 minutes in 2 of the last 3, mainly a rebounder, but at 4,200, he's another guy that gives you a solid floor. Then going to the Iowa side, Iowa, the trickiest team to target here, and we definitely want to because they have such a high team total. I think you just play Keegan Murray. The only thing that's holding him back is fouls. And if he doesn't foul, he's going to play nearly every minute. His rates are just so good. 24% usage rate. I saw him 50 burger yesterday. You just play Keegan Murray and find a way to do so. Outside of him, it's tough to get to these Iowa guys. They all split time almost evenly across the board. Bohannon, Pat McCaffrey, Chris Murray. I think if you're playing any of them, it's probably Bohannon for the minute consistency and the shot rate. It's only 14%, but still, it gives you something. Otherwise, I think you're just paying all the way down for players like Toussaint or Connor McCaffrey. And those aren't things I really want to do on this particular slate when we potentially have Roberts at such a cheap price. I honestly think for Iowa, it's going to be Keegan Murray. And if you want to be contrarian, you could look at Bohannon, Pat McCaffrey, or Chris Murray. But those are very tough pills to swallow, in my opinion. Tony Perkins kind of fits in that mold too. But that is the slate. If you guys have any questions or you have a player you really like, leave it in the comments section. I am Matt Gajewski on Twitter at Matt_Gajewski. Thank you for watching, and we'll be with you all through March Madness. So make sure to check those out as well. We'll see you later, guys.